What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Sean Davis. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe here to the channel. We have a longer show here today. For the first time, we're going to be kind of debuting this kind of style where we'll have a few different topics that we'll discuss on this show. And this will be a longer form for you guys that like to listen to like podcasts or things like that. We'll see if we can get like a podcast, set up here. But we got some topics here today. So on tap for today, we're going to be discussing the Lakers' decision to not have a mini camp, a players only led mini camp. You see teams like the Pacers. A lot of teams typically do this. The Lakers have done this. I want to say every year since LeBron's been here. We're going to talk about Dalton Knecht and why he might have a breakout year one and why the Lakers might need him to be one of the better rookies year one for this team to be successful. And then we're going to dive into the mailbag. I posted a AMA, with the unannounced or the announced. It's actually today, now I think about it, is the JJ Redick and Rob Pelinka press conference is going to drop today at the time of this release. So we got some questions. I actually got to, tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to drop tomorrow, excuse me. The presser. So I have you guys fire away any questions you guys had heading up to that presser, and we're going to get into those. But, once again, a quick reminder, if you guys are new, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the time the season starts. And then go check out my personal channel, Sports Outline Shows YouTube channel. We're continuing our preseason power ranking series over there. We will be getting to the Lakers here soon. We're about to be doing number 16 at the time of this recording. So, But with that being said, let's get into the news. So the Lakers, no player-led minicamp this season. This is from Dan Winke of the LA Times. He reports that the Lakers, are unlikely. Use that unlikely to partake into that the off-season players-led mini camp. He says the LeBron appeared on Lakers social media this week in a weight room. A sign that his post-Olympic recess come to a close. These kind of long summers, the one that he and Anthony Davis had agreed to in service of the country, push everything else back and change off-season plans. Both players are back in the gym, though things in the upcoming weeks will be a little bit different. The team, as of now, will not be taking one of the player-led mini camps that it's done in the past. So, is this anything to be concerned about? Not necessarily. I don't really view this as a bad thing. If anything, this actually kind of makes sense why they're not doing a player-led mini camp this year and kind of just pushing everything back and just doing the training camp and things like that. I completely get that. Like I said, LeBron, or like Dan said as well, LeBron and Anthony Davis both played, for one, at extremely high levels in for Team USA this season, this summer, help leading them to Olympic gold medalists. So that completely makes sense to me. And you want to get them their rest or whatever. They probably would have had a little bit over a month of full rest, like Dan pointed out. LeBron and AD seem to be back in the gym, back in a weight room, things like that. But another thing that I think also kind of makes sense of why that the Lakers don't really need a mini camp as much as maybe some other teams do. This team is the exact same team, literally the exact same team, except adding Dalton Knecht and Bronny. This is the exact same team as last year's team. Yeah, you have a new head coach, but that's what you need training camp for. If it's a players-led mini camp, the coach isn't there. So the perks I think you would get from a mini camp where it's a team bonding, you get to get real competitive. You can do the competitive part in training camp, but with the team bonding, going out, stuff like that, I mean, I'm not saying like more camaraderie isn't a good thing, but you already have that to a certain extent here. So I view this as more as a positive than is a negative. I guess I can understand how you take some negative stuff away, but you're already banged up. Gabe Vincent, Camarash, and Jalen Hood-Schifino should all be ready for training camp as well. That's also the report recently. But this team is fine. This team is fine. They have the chemistry or whatever. Bron and AD are coming off of Team USA. You had some other players that were already injured and recovering from injury. So you combine, Rui's been banged up this summer. Vando, we still don't really know the full status on Jared Vanderbilt. Christian Wood's hurt. Bron and AD are coming off of Team USA. It makes complete and total sense why they did not have a offseason players-led mini camp, which again is typically like the week before actual training camp. So again, makes total sense. I'm not going to complain. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But let's move on here. So Dalton Knecht is one of my guys. He was one of my guys in this past draft cycle. This was the most fun I've ever had evaluating a draft class. This is the deepest I've done into this draft class. I had over 45 in-depth scouting reports on these guys, and I like briefly looked at, or I had a somewhat of a scouting report on over 60. Next year's gonna be even better. I'm starting my draft content way earlier this season, so a little sneak peek there for people that are subscribed to my personal channel. But Dalton Knecht was one of my guys. I had him 11th on my board in this last year's draft. If you account for injuries like Nikola Topic as well, then he would have slid up to 10th on my board. So the Lakers get a top 10 pick, essentially, top 10 player in this class on my board, at least, and amongst the Lakers scouts as well. They had him in the top 10. I can confirm that. On their board at 17. So obviously one of the best picks in the entire draft. If you recall, like on my Lakers Nation stream at the time of the NBA draft, I was actively getting nervous watching the draft and realizing that Dalton Knecht is still here. 11 goes by, then 12 goes by, and then I started to feel a little bit better when like Sacramento flew by, and then when Philly went by. When Philly went by, I was like, okay, cool. I don't think Miami's taking Dalton Knecht here. And it was the realization like, oh my God, we might get one of the 10 best players in this draft class. And because of all the uncertainty with the injuries and even some of the shooting with this team, the Lakers desperately need Dalton Knecht to be a pretty consistent guy throughout this season. And one of the things I'm going to do here in the coming weeks, I'm going to do a full rotation builder, building out this team's rotation, what I think this team's game one through game 82, not game 182, but game one rotation should look like, assuming like it's 80, Braun, Rui, Vando. Well, who knows about Vando, but 80, Braun, Rui, Austin, D'Lo, Gabe, some of those other guys taking out maybe a Vando, depends. We still know his status. And then Christian Wood, obviously. But kind of seeing where the team lies and how I think the rotation should play out. I'm really, really excited to get into that. We'll do that here in the next couple of weeks. But Dalton Knecht has a skill set that is going to make a lot of sense. And it makes even more sense that JJ Redick's the head coach, because there is no coach that I think is going to maximize what Dalton Knecht can be for this team more than JJ Redick, who I think, if you're talking about skill set, day one skill set, then Dalton Knecht, you're hoping he can be what JJ Redick kind of was, where you throw him in a creative three-man action where you have him coming off a pin down, have him come off of flares. One of the most popular actions in the NBA right now is called double drag shallow. And I'm going to post a clip right here of a few examples, like the Warriors run it a ton, the Jazz run it a ton. It's part of the double drag series that the Lakers have already, in detail used. I broke that down on my channel as well. My guy Tim, you guys know him as Cranjiswick Basketball. And it's so effective because if you have him as the shallow cutter, which would be the second screener, like Clay is used, like Lauri Markkanen is used, and the ball handler is D'Lo and the screener is AD, or the ball handler is Braun, the screen setter is AD, that puts the defense into such a bind defensively with the rotation to how you want to guard that, because you have two of the best pick and roll passers in the game in Braun and D'Lo. You have one of the best, if not the best, play finisher in the league in Anthony Davis. You have a dynamic scoring threat, specifically from three, and Dalton Knecht coming off that. That's stupidly hard to guard, right? You look at the idea that Anthony Davis is going to be a playmaking hub, or be just a hub in general, more offensively. Think Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, even to a certain extent, in terms of like creative hub offensively, Bam Adebayo. A lot of that is throughout being used in three-man actions, where it's a Chicago action, it's a rip screen into a dribble handoff, things like that, where all these teams will run these creative actions. Like think Michael Porter Jr., think Duncan Robinson, think guys like that. Tyrese Maxey, they'll even run stuff like that for him in Philly. And I think about that. I think about how the Lakers can utilize some of that stuff for a guy like Dalton Knecht. But the thing that Dalton also has that maybe some of those other guys don't have, specifically like a Duncan Robinson, for example, or even a JJ back in his day, Dalton Knecht has legit wiggle, I think, with the ball in his hands to create his own shot where he's going to see the fifth best defender every night when he's on the floor, maybe the fourth best defender, right? Because there might be a lineup where it's a Vando out there with them, and the defense is worried about Vando. But still, when we're talking about him still being an off-ball primarily guy, and it's Bron, D'Lo, Austin creating, he gets to attack off a closeout. He has sneaky athleticism as well. I think this team could utilize really, really good cutter. The defense is something to be concerned about, but again, and this was one of my points in my draft analysis with Dalton Knecht, honestly, if he turned out to be an average defender in the NBA, it wouldn't surprise me necessarily, because I think every step of the way throughout his collegiate career, he was asked to be the highest usage guy on the roster. We never really got to see him in a downsized role. That was what was supposed to happen at Tennessee. He was supposed to transfer from Northern Colorado to Tennessee, and his role and his volume would descale a little bit. If anything, it increased, and that's how you won SEC Player of the Year, right? So now you're playing next to LeBron, you're playing next to D'Lo and Austin and AD or Ruby or whatever, right? To where you're the sixth option now all of a sudden, right? So now do we get to see Dalton Knecht put in more effort defensively? Because I think he tries. I think he has the length to be able to guard twos in the league, maybe some threes in the league, right? He doesn't have elite foot speed. He can be a little stiff with his hips and things like that, which can affect his lateral agility and movement, things like that. Uh, but I do think there is something. There's things to work with defensively. He's a smart player. He's a connected playmaker offensively as well. And I like Dalton Knecht. And I think Dalton Knecht this season, along with Max Christie, can give you, for Dalton Knecht, 15 to 18 minutes, and then Max to give you 20 plus. Then I think that is a big, big factor in this team hitting its ceiling, is Dalton Knecht being a 15 plus minute per night guy that can give you Torian Prince level production, or maybe that's Max, right? One of the two. And then Max give you 20 plus minutes tonight. Max's role is just going to be 3 and D. Can you hit spot up corner threes? Can you attack closeouts and play athletically above the rim? And can you guard the best guard on the opposing team, right? Dalton Knecht is, can you be kind of a microwavable scorer and flamethrower off the bench and not get cooked defensively? That's kind of what I'm looking at from those two guys. And please, JJ Redick, use Dalton Knecht as a movement shooter. Do not use Dalton Knecht how like Darvin Ham would use a Torian Prince and a Malik Beasley, where those guys were very much movement shooters, but they were used as stationary guys. Or, hey, look, go stand in the corner all day, when that just really wasn't their game. So that's one of the things I'm actually really, really curious to see with JJ Redick. And one of the things I think he's going to improve upon from the previous regime is his personnel management and personnel usage and putting his players in the best situations to be successful. So I'm excited for Dalton Knecht. And again, the 3-man actions. We got to see that this season. All right, let's get into some of your questions. I put out a tweet on X at Sean_DAVI saying, what are your biggest questions heading into the JJ Redick and Rob Pelinka press conference? I'll answer them in a video to drop tomorrow, which is today. So let's get to this first one. At J.R. Smith Range, I think they end up being a top 10 offense. I think I agree with that. I would surprise me if they had some bumpy stuff at the start of the season. Let's see. My question is, how are they thinking about defense? What are the core principles, and wonder if it changes if the Lakers make a trade by the deadline? So what are the Lakers' core principles defensively? I think, looking at Nate McMillan teams with, the Pacers, I remember, I don't remember my full thought process. I have to go back. I did a full film breakdown that's posted on my main channel, not my main channel, my other channel, and it was on my playback page for the Pacers defense, Nate McMillan defense. But one of the takeaways I had was, please, for the love of God, get Wendell Carter Jr., whatever it takes, because what Indiana was able to do with Miles Turner and Sabonis together is they were able to hedge a lot. And this is where the Koloko signing can make some sense, or even just Jackson Hayes, right? Playing him more with AD, but you'd have to have great floor spacing with that group. Is they were able to play Miles Turner and Sabonis together with those teams. They were having top 5 defenses like Oladipo, Malcolm Brogdon, TJ Warren, who is not a good defender, Sabonis and Miles Turner, but they would hedge a lot, play 2 on the ball a lot. But that's kind of what we saw in Team USA with Anthony Davis. So I'm wondering if Nate McMillan's kind of watching what AD is doing in Team USA and saying, "Ooh, chomping at the bit a little bit," because what made AD and Bam so dominant is together with Team USA is we can hedge, so AD can hedge on the ball screen and kind of force the ball handler to go east west, go to the sideline essentially. And the problem with the hedging is if you're a low man in rotation is a smaller guy, then he's now your rim protection because now the big has to sprint his ass back to the rim. Excuse my language, but it just makes things a little bit harder. But when that low man in rotation is Anthony Davis or vice versa, Bam Adebayo, right? Or in their case, it's Sabonis and Miles Turner, where we can, even if Sabonis isn't the greatest rim protector, he's a solid enough one where Miles Turner can hedge, Sabonis can be the low man and help, and we're still fine. I have to go back and look at some more of the data. I haven't completely refreshed my memory about Nate McMillan-led defenses, but Nate McMillan is in charge of the defense, or he's expected to be in charge of the defense as a defensive guy. I'd be kind of surprised if he wasn't in charge of it. And really quickly, I will say this. I am probably more confident, for sure defensively about where this team is kind of looking at. But this team really needs Vando back. This team needs Vando back pretty badly, in my opinion. And if it changes, if the Lakers make a trade by the deadline, I mean, it sucks because I think the skill set the Lakers really, really need, I think every team in the league wants, because there's like 5 stretch bigs that are also really, really good defenders. There's not a lot of them. So that's why being able to find that skill set and identify is so important, and having that on your team, because now you have one of the hardest skill sets to find. Like I said, you don't really see a lot of bigs are able to shoot the three and protect the rim, because the Pelicans can use one of those guys right now. The Lakers can use one of those guys. There's a lot of teams that can really, really use one of those guys right about now. And man, what could have been, I guess, if they had Miles Turner and they did that Buddy Hield and Miles Turner trade back in 2021. Who knows? Who knows what things could look like? Let's see what we got here. Let's see. We got at lost the word. All right, at the 3KZ. I apologize. 3D. All right, we'll just go that 3D KZ. Okay, that probably makes more sense. With LeBron / Anthony Davis dominating Olympic basketball and establishing they're still top 10 players after multiple mediocre seasons, why has there been a lack of urgency to surround AD / LeBron with the best names and talent around the league, from front office or free agency, to compete / be successful? Okay, so essentially, why have the Lakers been more urgent to get a deal done? Because I think the league wants the Lakers to be urgent, and I'm not giving Rob and Jeannie bail, if you will, in air quotes, right? But I think the league would want the Lakers to have this urgency, like oh man, we got to get a deal done. Now, would I be surprised if the Lakers didn't make a deal by the deadline? Yes, I would be surprised. But the league, again, they want the Lakers to have the sense of urgency, because having that sense of urgency kind of comes off as like you're kind of desperate. And what I mean by urgency, I think it's the urgency that fans want, where it's, all right, the Lakers are in every newsroom. We're trying to get this guy, and we're going to overpay for them, right? I think the Lakers, I would hope at least, and I think they have really intelligent people in there, obviously. So I would hope that the Lakers would look at Team USA and realize, okay, Anthony Davis is like the 5th best player in basketball right now. LeBron James is still a top 10 player in basketball at 39 years old. We just paid him too. He turns 40 in December. Okay, we gotta give them something. But the entire league is also watching this and also going, oh, those guys have what, the 5th best player in basketball and another top 10 guy? That top 10 guy is almost 40. We could probably milk this and get as much out of him. Like, I like Jeremy Grant a lot as a player, but Jeremy Grant is not worth 2 first-round picks. And that's kind of the example I'm talking about, where I think the league wants the Lakers to be desperate so they can rip them off and say, all right, cool, Jeremy Grant can really help your team. All right, look, we want 2 first-round picks and stuff. Like, no. So I get the frustration. I'm frustrated. It's been a really bad offseason. I don't think the Lakers have done a lot, but a lot of it actually, I do think they handicapped themselves a little bit with some of the player option stuff. But I mean, outside of that, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to improve the roster unless you overpaid. And maybe even the argument is, hey, look, yeah, Bron, you have AD. This might be one of your last cracks at it. Overpay, and we'll figure it out later. And maybe that's the argument, but it is what it is. Again, I'd be surprised if they didn't make a move by the deadline, but we'll see. We'll see. It is imperative though this team gets off to a good start, and unfortunately, they're dealing with some bad health right now. At Jason Maves, is Anthony Davis playing center? If unknown, I hope. Okay. If unknown, okay. Is Anthony Davis playing center? My assumption would be yeah. I mean, as much as Anthony Davis has screams from the mountaintops, he doesn't really want to play center, or he would like to have somebody kind of help take the burden off of him. I don't look at this roster, even if Christian Wood is here. I don't really look at this roster and say they've done everything in their power to change that and make us think that Anthony Davis isn't going to be the day one center. Now, again, maybe when Christian Wood gets back, maybe. But that's not a night in, night out thing, and that's not something you can do for 30 minutes a game. So, for 10 minutes here and there, sure, I think you could go to a Christian Wood, but it is what it is. All right, next up, how is Jalen Hood-Schifino and Dawn's role this year going to be? Will they get a chance to be in the rotation? Like I already discussed, I think Dalton Knecht will be in the rotation. Some of these questions, I don't know if they're going to get answered, but anyway, I think Dalton Knecht will be in the rotation. I think JHS is actually getting to the point where I think he's going to have to be in the rotation simply because I think you got to find out what he is, right? Because then if you find out what he is and you don't like it, then I think actually you find out what he is so you can make a trade. Because I think if you don't like it, you are more pressed to just throw him in a trade and see if he can rehab his career somewhere else from a team that likes him, right? If he does play really, really well, then I feel way better about trading Gabe Vincent, especially if Gabe Vincent isn't at least back to being the streaky shooter he was at Miami, right? Like if he's shooting below 30% from three again or something, or just isn't able to be Gabe Vincent like he was in Miami, but JHS is playing well, then I'm more inclined to trade Gabe Vincent, even if I have to throw in a second or something to get the deal done, right? So I think I feel really, really confident that Dalton Knecht is going to play. JHS, I would play him just to see what he is, like get a real answer with a guy that is all about player development, JJ Redick. So I don't know, we'll see, but I for sure Dalton. Geez, somebody says, why is Rob still employed? Jason also adds in, how's the team who is historically below average from three supposed to maximize itself with the 5 out? If I'm not mistaken, Denham tried that first and quickly scrapped it. Jace also adds, I think the answer is where a set starts is not where it ends, but I'd like to hear a more competent answer to why I could give. Okay, so Jason, I'm going to try my best here. So for starters, and let me pull up Cleaning the Glass. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up kind of the core 10 guys from last season, right? Pull up the core 10 guys from last season. We're going to look at kind of how they shot the ball last season. So give me one second. But first things first, the Lakers in general. The Lakers as a team for Cleaning the Glass were 7th in the league in three-point shooting. 7th in the league in three-point shooting, 3rd on above the break threes, and 16th on corner threes. Now, the point was that this team is pretty historically not a good three-point shooting team. As the only time, like the last time the Lakers were in the top 10, forget the top 10. The last time the Lakers were inside the top 20 in three-point shooting would have been 2013, 2014, where they were 6th in three-point shooting. This is all per Cleaning the Glass. The only time before that would have been 2010, 2011, which would have been the year after the championship year. Then the only time before that would have been 2007, 2008, which would have been the year they lost to Boston. So the only times, that's top 10, excuse me. So since, let's just call it 2005, 2006, the Lakers have only been top 15 in 3-point shooting 3 times: 2007, 2008, 2013, 2014, and 2023, 2024 seasons. 3 times since 2005. That's freaking insane. But last season, going back to last year's team, again, right around like the middle part of the season, excuse me, they were a pretty good 3-point shooting team. Like, again, if we add in, so we got AD, Austin Reeves, D'Lo. Let's add Gabe, I suppose. Any lineup with these guys, Christian Wood. We got to throw Vando in there, even though Vando played like 7 games. Braun, Rui, Max Christie, Torian Prince, Spencer Dinwiddie. All right, so we took out like any guy that really wasn't, and we'll throw in Camrush. So these are the main guys. Any lineup with those guys on the floor. And like if you look at just the top Laker lineups from last season, I accidentally set this filter up wrong. If you look at any top lineup from the Lakers last season, just in terms of 3-point shooting, again, this is all per clean the glass. Starting 5, 37% from 3. Like, and I'll just pull up the graphic here right now. Last season's team was legitimately a good 3-point shooting team. As we look at our graphic here, or not graphic necessarily, but this is all per clean the glass. Like, there's only one really bad shooting lineup. If we stop here, any lineup that played at least 150 possessions, 49%, 40, 30, like you guys can see it right there. All pretty good shooting lineups. So, but this is kind of a myth, I think, with 5-out offenses in general. The point of 5-out offenses isn't necessarily to shoot threes. Now, that is a byproduct. Shooting threes is more of a byproduct of it. It's not the reason. It's not the reason why you do it, though. The reason why you play a lot more 5-out, and I think the Lakers 5-out offense, yes, they did try to do it with Darvin Ham, and they actually had some success with it, actually, when it was organized. Their freelance 5-out offense, if I recall correctly, was pretty bad, but their organized 5-out offense is still pretty good. The point of 5-out offense is to just create and maximize space. That is the point and the purpose of 5-out offenses. Like my high school team that I coach, and I'm the offensive coordinator, essentially, we run 5-out offenses, but it's not necessarily to jack up threes, or one of our offenses is based out of 5-out. It's not to jack up threes. The point of the 5-out offense is to just maximize space, right? Like if you look at a lot of these teams nowadays, there's a couple of myths actually. So I'm glad we are kind of addressing these, right? You look at, but the 2 biggest myths is, okay, man, we're going to shoot a bunch of threes or whatever, and we're going to shoot a lot of threes, and we're going to suck at offensive rebounding or whatever, right? Well, the Thunder are a heavy 5-out offense. They're 16th in 3-point attempts last season, right? The Utah Jazz, yeah, they're 10th, right? There's a lot of 5-out offenses. The Lakers were 28th in 3-point attempts per game, and they ran a decent amount of 5-out offense last season, right? Offensive rebounds, the Jazz were 4th in offensive rebounds per game last season. But the narrative is with 5-out offense, the narrative is, oh man, if we run 5-out offense, we're going to be a bad offensive rebounding team. Well, again, the Jazz are actually 2nd in offensive rebounding percentage. And then the Celtics, for example, who are a heavy 5-out offense, they were also above average in offensive rebounding percentage. So with the offensive rebounding, that's more of just, do we prioritize this or not? That's really what my opinion on offensive rebounding is. Do we prioritize this as a staff? Yes or no? Okay, cool. We prioritize it. We'll be a good offensive rebounding team. It is no surprise to me that the Hawks, that the Knicks, that the Jazz, that the Magic, the Suns, the Rockets, these are teams in the top 10 because they are teams that prioritize offensive rebounding. Whereas the team like the Lakers that did not prioritize offensive rebounding, that were, hey, we're going to be a more transition defense team. They were middle of the pack at that at best, but neither here nor there. We're going to prioritize getting back in transition. Okay, cool. The Lakers were the 2nd worst offensive rebounding team last season. So that's where you kind of get these myths. But going back to the shooting bit, again, you're going to shoot threes out of it. Yes, because eventually why 5-out offense is more popular now is because you're just creating more space for your team to operate with, especially if you have talented one-on-one isolation drivers and things like that. That's why Boston is able to do it a ton, because they can just say, hey, Tatum, play from the wing. We're going to put our big in the slot to kind of eliminate that low man help. So attack, get downhill. Now we get to kick out to our shooters. It's all about paint touches. It's not dribble, 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 shoot, step back threes, i.e., James Harden 2018 Rockets. And even then, Harden was an elite paint touch guy back then. So their threes were off of Harden paint touches and things like that. So I think the Lakers threes that they're going to take this season, and I do think they're going to take more threes, but the Lakers threes are going to take are going to be off of Bron paint touches, AD paint touches off of post ups, D'Lo, who does in a regular season do a decent job of getting to the paint, Austin, things like that. That's how they're going to get their paint, their threes. They're going to be off of paint touches, and they're going to run some fun actions for guys like Dalton and D'Lo and things like that. But that's going to wrap up the show today. A bit of housekeeping here. So I'm going to be moving in about a week or so. So we're going to get some recorded content out and have that ready for when I do move so we can get the setup. The setup is going to be updated. We're going to have some fun stuff in the background. Got some Laker stuff already ordered and going to be there for the setup. And yeah, go check out my channel. Got a bunch of great announcements, guys. If you guys love content from me, subscribe here to the channel. Subscribe to the Sports Headline Show. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.